All right. Good evening, Paul. How are you? It's been a long time that we haven't seen each other, but so I go. As a life go, right?
Yes, it is indeed the case, Leo. I recall you had visited Jamaica before the pandemic, and we met
Yes.
in the margins of a diaspora event that you are participating in.
Yes. I come pretty often, but it's just that I come undercover sometimes.
And then you're in the St. Mary side and so on.
Yes, yes. Can you lift up your camera a little bit so I can see? I'm just seeing the top of your head. Yes. There you are. There you go. There you go.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. I know that you are from St. Mary too, right?
Actually, no.
You're from St. Mary. Which part you come from?
I'm originally from St. Catherine,
Okay.
but I've been in Portland since 1981.
Oh, okay,
So I
okay.
think I'm a naturalized Portlander.
so
Yes.
so we're in St. Catherine.
I'm originally from Yorton in St.
Oh,
Catherine.
real
And
countryman.
also, yeah, the Yorton Mount Rossa border. I went to Mount Rossa Primary School.
Okay, okay.
Of
So you
Mount
know me
Rossa.
come from Rockabessa, right?
Okay, right, yes.
Yeah, so people, this is Dr. Paul Ivey, and he's an instructor professor over at UTech, and he's also an author, amazing author, writes a lot of books, and I met him some years ago, and we've retained our friendship socially, social media, and via email and so forth. But I found him quite interesting. He has a point of view of the world, but mostly Jamaica. And that's what I want to take out of him this evening and other evenings, because we're going to be here weekly for now, for the first 3 weeks. And I want to dig into his brain and challenge him on some of the things that I hear him talk about sometimes. So, Paul.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm good to go.
You're ready, right?
Yes.
So what is the topic that you want to cover this evening? Let's start there. Yeah.
All right. So, just to give a little bit of a preface, you
Yes.
mentioned where I work.
Yes.
And yes, I have been at UTech for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to indicate that my views that I express in this space are my views and are not my employers.
That's good.
And I also want to mention that as a Jamaican born after independence, I have taken the opportunity to assess my country.
Yes.
And you have alluded to my social media presence,
Yes.
and also the various books that I have authored.
Mm-hmm.
So far, I've gone 17 books.
Oh my God.
On a range of topics, starting with my autobiography, my life story.
Yes.
But more to the point in relation to our discussion now about Jamaica and my point about looking as a post-independence born citizen, looking at how my country has fared, which is now in its 61st year of independence. And in that regard, I believe that I have done a public service by writing 3 of my books covering Jamaica in particular. Actually, it's 4 of them, but 3 in particular. And the topic of that particular book, which is a 3-volume book, is Jamaica, Paradise, and Paradox. I have all of 3 volumes. And so now, in this space tonight and in the subsequent sessions, I want to start out by looking at Jamaica and to say, how has Jamaica fared as an independent country, now in our 61st year of independence? And are we a failed state, as some persons have debated, and it's one of the topics that I have debated. So that's what I want to discuss with you.
So what do you call fail? What is fail for you? Because I think if you talk to many of the politicians in Jamaica, they'll tell you that's not true. So tell me what is fail for.
I want to give you, I tend to give long answers, Leo. So.
Well, make them short because we have to have a conversation, right?
I have to do a bit of a run-up, and I like to, as an academic, I like to put things in context so that we don't go by just sound bites.
Right.
So let us start with independence and the independence project.
Mm-hmm.
When Jamaica gained independence, there was a groundswell of hope and euphoria that swept the country. Political historian Troy Kane, the late Troy Kane, made mention of the celebrations that swept the entire country from east to west. He mentioned that, there was the brand new stadium and persons were so euphoric of seeing the Union Jack lowered and so forth. Norman Manley at the time said, among other things, "We have come to independence prepared and ready to shoulder our new responsibilities and united, I believe, in one single hope that we may make our small country a safe and happy home for all."
So, all right, so let's move from there.
Have we done that?
Okay,
but
that you use the term euphoric,
yes,
which express a moment in time.
Yes.
Right? Which means the people were jubilant and happy for independence, which is completely different from prior to the development of independence, because they had a whole lot of social problems and economic problems before that too. So that particular moment is a moment in time. So what has happened post that moment, we've had so many other jubilant times, or 50th or 25th or 10th, that kind of thing, anniversary, and we were quite happy and euphoric during those times too.
But right? You see, the first one is the charm. Here we were, throwing off the vestiges of, or the burden of colonialism. We were a colony of Britain. We were now growing up, so to speak, and going off on our own as an independent country. We were taking charge of our own destiny. And so the point of reference to that is this: to the question of whether we are a failed state is, have we made our small country a safe and happy home for all? If we use that yardstick.
Well, what do you think?
Okay, if we use that yardstick, then we can have a discussion around that.
Let's go.
Right, so that's how I want to contextualize it. And to say this, all right, there is that, and there is also a textbook definition of what a failed state is.
And so we'll get there.
Yes. So for example, they will say a failed state has no central authority in charge. It's a free-for-all. Basic services are not available, and so on and so forth. So there's a textbook definition, and we also had a yardstick that we had set for ourselves going into independence, now being in charge of our own affairs. Jamaica, in my view, from those two standpoints and from the textbook definition in particular, Jamaica is not a failed state.
It's not. But no. I actually thought you were coming with it.
No, I'm going to tell you where I'm going. I'm going to tell you where I'm going.
Okay, so, all right.
Remember this prominent banker several years ago had made a declaration that Jamaica was a failed state. And he took a lot of flack for that and a lot of pushback and so forth. But I'm positing that Jamaica is really not a failed state. What Jamaica is that it is failing in many important respects.
Okay.
And not a failed state.
Economics?
So now we can go to some of the areas.
Okay, so
crime.
Okay, let's talk about crime. Because I was going to go financial, but you're going straight into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about crime.
And then we can dissect each of them, over the.
No, let's talk crime. Let's talk crime, because that actually tells us. I looked at the numbers this evening, and we are on top of many countries. With 52, almost 53 death murders per 100,000. About many other countries,
We are in the top 10. We have been there for quite some time now.
We're top 10 in the world. We're top 10 in the world.
In the world, which is a distressing situation. So we have crime, we have the economy, we have health, we have education, and we have inequality.
All right.
For the decade starting 1989, 89 to 98, 99 to 2008, 2009 to 2018. Those are the last figures that I had cataloged. For that decade, from 1989 to 2018, the total number of murders was 32,772.
Okay.
The view has been expressed that the number of persons, all right, let's go. Independence in 1962, there were 63 murders.
Right.
And today, you looked at the figures, we are just over 1,000 now year to date.
Right.
Last year, we had 1,400.
Yes.
And for several years now, we have passed the 1,000 mark.
Yes,
Really
every year.
a distressing state of affairs as it relates to the crime situation. And it has been said that if we tally the number of murders, for example, since 1962, since independence, we could probably fill the national stadium in excess. So if we want to get graphic in terms of a visualization of it, the total number of murders exceeds the capacity of the national stadium. That's really a bad situation. We have not made Jamaica a safe and happy home for all from that standpoint. Not safe.
So I keep trying to find, we look at crime rate.
Yes.
And we look at the amount of murders and how many solved, right?
Yes.
But I can't seem to find a clear picture of how many people get convicted each year from the number of murders that we have.
Okay, the yardstick that they use for that is what is called the cleared up rate.
I know, 50%.
And
but
the cleared up rate is somewhere about half.
Yeah,
and by cleared up, that means somebody has been arrested and charged. It doesn't actually mean convicted. So it's definitely much lower than that, actually.
Absolutely.
And so the
yes,
point is
very much.
Yes, and persons have made the point that, we have murderers running up and down the country, not convicted, and so on and so forth. And so from that particular yardstick, that's crime. That's one of the important areas in which we are failing. And it is the case that the primary responsibility that governments are instituted among people is for public safety.
Well, let's talk. We talk about crime. Before we go to the next one, we have to talk about solution.
Yes.
Because we can criticize all day long, but if we don't come up with solutions and some ideas about what can be done and so forth, then we're not doing our jobs either. I think your camera is falling. Yeah. So what are some of the thoughts that you have about helping the country moving forward with resolving some of the issues in criminality and crime and murders?
Okay, as an academic, I always have to go to research and to evidence. Criminologists like Professor Anthony Harriet, for example, is one of the references that I want to make. I also want to make reference to Dr. Bernard Edley. Bernard Edley, he passed a year or two ago. But these persons have documented, based on research, policy options that are available for our policymakers. I think it was the 2009 Grace Kennedy lecture that Professor Anthony Harriet gave. And it was titled Policy Options for Solving Crime in Jamaica. That was the Grace Kennedy lecture. And so we do not have a shortage of academic research to guide the policy making as it relates to crime and crime solving. What I think we lack is just the will to take this thing by the scruff of the neck in particular ways. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about as to how I see it in terms of solutions. I am of the view, and I've written about it, one of my books, is this matter of engendering a culture of lawfulness in Jamaica. If you go, Leo, from St. Thomas in the east, all the way to Negril Point in the west, you will encounter lawlessness for the entire duration of that span of distance. If you go to our town centers, total chaos reigns in our major town centers, for example. And I'm of the view that if we enforce the little things, I'm a proponent of the broken windows theory, that if you do not take control of the little things, they will grow into big things. And also, they will set up a psychology, just like the broken windows situation, a psychology of lawlessness permeates the length and breadth of Jamaica. And I'm always surprised to say, doesn't the Prime Minister see that if he were to initiate a program to bring about public order in public spaces, it would make a big difference to the overall psychology and the atmosphere in Jamaica?
But you know that the broken window theory was debunked, right? And because of constitutionality in the New York City area, right?
Well, yes, but it's not just restricted to New York. It is a theory that has applicability in different contexts. It's not restricted to or unique to New York. Mm-hmm. So, but if you notice what I've indicated, I have said that what we should do is enforce the laws on the books.
But I agree with you still. No, I don't disagree with you coming up with the enforcing the minor infractions because it creates the lawfulness that you're talking about. But it has to be done broadly, but not just, and it can't be abused, right? So because we have I don't know if you noticed, it's going to require our police officers to be trained on being humane, or we're going to be trained on socialization, going to be trained on how to deal with people so that they don't just come out and just because somebody does something minor, they're going to beat them up, because then that's creating more problems. That's why I say it can be abused. So so yes, I do believe in that theory, the broken window theory, but I think that it can be abused very easily.
But pretty much everything and anything can be abused.
How do you execute? How do you execute something like that in our country to make it?
Yes, we're not speaking to the exceptions. So, for example, why is it that we have this lawlessness among public passenger operators? Let me use that broad term.
I agree with you.
And I know. It is an ongoing thing, and it is an ongoing thing, and we can't authorize it. The roads are just lawless. You know, it has been said that if a foreigner visits a country for the first time, within an hour of observing how the drivers drive, they can get a good assessment of the psychology of the people and so forth. I saw recently a video of a popular figure, I think they might say a popular entertainer, and he was driving against traffic on a highway. And why he was doing that, he was saying that the regular people are backed up in traffic, and here he is driving against traffic on the other side of the road. What did I say to myself? If he were in Singapore, and I know this is a touchy topic, but I'm going there. If he were in Singapore, his vehicle would probably be seized and crushed, because they really don't make joke in Singapore as it relates to enforcing the laws. Persons are going to immediately say, no, Dr. Ivey, we can't have Lee Kuan Yew's methods. I am not advocating for Lee Kuan Yew's methods. What I'm advocating for is having a country where law and order is the order of the day.
I agree with you, but I agree with you, but there's gonna have to be some serious training with our police officers, because they're also not law abiding.
Well, be that as it may.
Okay, all right.
I'm saying that I am for, and here's the thing, because we can talk about many different topics that I have interest in, I am for rights-based citizenship.
Right.
I'm for rights-based citizenship, and I do not believe in any aggravation of the Constitution. I do not believe constitutional rights should be breached in any way, shape, or form, except as provided by law, which says that if you have a state of emergency, which is a suddenness and so forth, but as provided for, as they say, justifiable in a democratic society, then I'm for that. But as a general proposition, rights-based citizenship.
Right,
So
and I agree with you.
In citizens.
I was addressing
Yes.
the fact that you said if you start from Portland to Montego to Negril, you see lawlessness, and the people we're talking about, the people you're talking about. But I'm saying, in terms of lawlessness, lawlessness is the entire population that's lawless, including the people who are supposed to be who's supposed to be the person who's protecting the citizens. I'm saying that. So I want us, when we're thinking about creating that lawful and abiding citizenry, that we have a global approach to it, not global, but a national approach to it. Because yes, our people, it's not just being lawless, but we are reckless in the way we treat each other. And that comes from within, deep down inside of us. It comes from how we grew up, our environment, our environment kind of breeds the type of personality and the person that we become later on. And so where it comes from is from deep within, that we're seeing those unlawful people out on the street. It's not just that they want to be on the street and being unlawful. It starts from childhood, parenting, all of that stuff. It's a lot of things that we have to take into consideration.
That is true, but you see, governments are instituted for a particular purpose. Thomas Hobbes, in the Leviathan, he spoke about the social contract, where the social contract, the essence of it is this: the citizens give up some of their rights in return for protection by the state. Mm-hmm. The Jamaican state has failed in protecting the citizens. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, governments, according to my late colleague and friend, Martin Henry, public commentator #1, top drawer public commentator. He said, public affairs commentator. He says that governments have the necessary levers to create change on a country level. You and I can create change in our little circle, but governments have the levers and the resources to create change at country level effect. They have policies and they have laws and they have all of those kinds of structures and authority to do these various things. Mm-hmm. And they have failed.
I don't think our people, I don't think we're taught that we have a social contract at all. We're not taught that way. We're not taught that, well, nowadays, pre-62, there was an awareness of that. But I think people see the law now as problematic for their lives, something that's standing in their way to survival,
Well, there you go, because the other point that I was going to make or connect this other dot is this, that in terms of just basic survival, many Jamaicans survive by virtue of either breaking the law or very close to breaking the law in terms of the various activities. So I've argued and I've said to my friends that, look, I'm not saying tomorrow morning go out there and scrape up everybody out of Port Maria. They're from St. Mary, and one can hardly drive through Port Maria on a Friday or a Saturday. The town is the market.
That's right.
I am saying, do not go out there and take off persons and destroy their goods and that type of thing. Yeah. I'm saying, make facilities available, properly resourced with the requisite facilities and so forth. Make a modern, arcade, make a market district, make a market facility, and so forth. And you go with your public education and you say, people, you cannot vend in the streets because these are the challenges that it creates, and so on and so forth. We have made for you this facility, and this is where we want you to go.
Well, let's go back to the broken window theory, because I recall it. We did some really good things in New York. But in 1990, I remember New York had some serious murder. In 1990, they had 2,600 murders per year, and by I think it was Bill Bratton and I forgot the name of the Giuliani came in and put in that broken window theory, the broken window policing.
Bratton as police chief and Giuliani as mayor.
Right, and they put in the broken window policing. So they took the broken window theory and made it their own and say, okay, we're gonna prosecute people who are jumping, cells jumping and double parking and anything that you do that's against the law at the minor level, we're going to prosecute. And by 1994, the numbers were going down. In 2013, murders were 300 per year.
Yes,
and that's because of that. But it's in 2013 that the court made that law unconstitutional because of the amount of Black people that were being stopped and frisked.
Yes.
So it's a good law, and people must understand. People must understand that the way this works is if you prosecute the lower level crime, it will create a type of fear in fear and respect in the people, and they will start seeing why they need not to. So even the guys who are bad guys will start saying, okay, the police are in force and they're doing their jobs, and they're not going to take it for granted. So the major crimes, the murder and the robbery and all that, and rape went down tremendously.
Yes, and the thing is that, we have to appreciate that there was an undercurrent of racism in the US and the unequal application of the law.
Yes.
Have a similar concern can be expressed in Jamaica because of classism.
Yes.
And the unequal enforcement of law as it relates to class.
Yes.
However, if we notice that Jamaicans are coming into a greater sense of awareness, whether it's by social media, cable, but just access to more information. So if you're noticing a more aggressive Jamaican, a more outspoken Jamaican, if you notice we have a healthy civil society groups, if you will. So it seems to me that and people want Jamaica to be better. The average Jamaican, right-thinking Jamaican wants Jamaica to be better. That's why the polls have indicated the concern that people have with crime, and I believe that equitably enforced, the average Jamaican will see that for the better enforcement of laws support the greater good. So, for example, the loss to GDP is close to 2.5% thereabout, about 2% of GDP in terms of the potential growth that we would have that has been lost to the crime situation, potential investments lost, people who have been killed, communities that have been suppressed. That's why one of our young politicians was making the point to people, that when you have upheavals in particular communities, the jerk man can't sell, the cane man can't sell, the vendors can't sell, and so on, because of the entire community.
It impacts the entire economic, yes.
And the social fabric, the social structure. So what we want is effective governance. That's what we want, effective governance. I'm always amazed to say, it is that when we as Jamaicans and our leaders as well, when they travel to other well-run countries, do they think it's a miracle when
they're like that
are clean, well-organized? When I'm in the US, Leo, and I'm driving, and I'm in a 45 mph zone, If I go 48 or 50, I start looking in my mirror what's behind me. Why is that? Because as night follows day, if you exceed the speed limit, you are going to be pulled over. Yes. That doesn't happen here routinely. The police, they catch a couple guys on the highway, you know, when they have their radar guns and so forth. But other than that, it's a free-for-all.
Yes,
there's something out there.
I mean, when I drive on Sundays, in particular Sundays, I drive down that north-south highway.
Yes.
And sometimes about 5 of those big engine cars pass me so fast, I don't even get to see what they look like, right?
Yes.
And I'm driving, let's say they pass me close to Linstead. By the time we get halfway down the street, them coming back from Oteries, you know.
Well, look at that. So we have that kind of situation, and it's one of the areas that, you know, we are so traumatized. Listen, in the last few days, there was a triple murder in Grandspen. There was a quadruple murder in Riversdale last night. We can't continue like this as a country, and we have government in place. What is the purpose of government? And the one that governments have to lead. It is not a miracle or some type of mystery why some other countries are able to cauterize this crime situation.
And it no matter who you are, how bad you are at Jamaica, right?
Yes.
When you leave and go to America, you fall in, don't you?
No, they don't fall. No, they don't go as far as America. When they go to the U.S. Embassy up at Gilling, they don't even reach America. Right at the embassy at Gilling, that's when they start to fall in line. Yes. So what does that tell you?
True. That means they will respond.
So we need a zero tolerance. We need zero tolerance to lawlessness in Jamaica. And if you notice, I start with the little things. Yeah, because the little things will set up a psychology, an environment, psychology 101. It is consequences that regulate behavior, you know, in psychology. It is consequences that regulate behavior. And if persons know that they will not be caught and their liberty taken away from them, then they're going to continue to run.
So what do you think then, with all these problems that we have, and so simple man, you know, when I say simple, mean that you're normal, regular guy, right, who has the ideas to fulfilling the country's, you know,
potential.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is it that our leaders aren't?
Okay, now I thank you for that question, because it is one of the other areas that I've given tremendous thought to. Active citizenship. Citizens cannot be passive in the affairs of their country. They have to be engaged. And that is why I have taken up my own time, invested my time and intellectual time and resources into penning these books and to having these conversations with you, and to also be very active in social media and putting my views out there. Citizens must be active. Here's the analogy that Tony Lang used, the late Tony Lang, cultural activist and broadcaster. He was last on Power 106 FM before his demise. As a citizens, if we look at Jamaica as a country, he said that we, the citizens, are the shareholders in the company. But what have we done as the shareholders? We left it up. That's what he said. He used the Jamaican language. We left it up. We left it up, you know. As citizens, we have left up the affairs of our country to the extent that the apathy is at a very high level in terms of political apathy. It is 21% of the electorate that voted in the last election in 2020.
Yeah,
that is the kind of citizen engagement that we're talking about.
But even if it were 15% across the board,
You mean 15?
15. I'm just kidding. I'm just saying. But
you mean if it were low?
If it were low, yeah. And we have an election. My point is, I don't think our system is set for the people, Jamaica matter about,
yes,
for the people to have a voice other than at the election. I don't think that no matter what noise the people make, right?
Yes.
Politicians don't have to respond to that noise. They are still going to do what they want to do.
That is not true.
Well, all right, tell me. Prove that to me.
I don't agree with you.
Prove that to me. Prove that to me, because that has been my, yeah, that has been, I know there are two sides. And if you're saying both sides are the people, then I understand. But the people themselves in the general public make enough noise and there's no response. Okay, so go ahead.
I'm going to cite you some examples.
Yeah, man, please.
Remember, I don't know the exact year. I think it might have been 1996.
Mm-hmm.
The 1996 gas riots.
Hold
on. I'm giving you the example.
There was 72. Okay.
The 1996 gas riots, P.J. Patterson was prime minister. When he saw what was happening out there, he got his freed. I'm saying that, him catch him freed.
Yeah.
And he said, there is no emerging a new Jamaican, a more assertive Jamaican. And you notice there was a rollback. All right. In St. Thomas, you see, what we need to do as citizens is that we must count the little wins and use them as example. Let us use a very, very recent example. Look at the Constitutional Review Committee. You remember when they started out and the Minister of Constitution and Legal Affairs said, we are going to Parliament with a bill in May. We are going to table a bill in Parliament in May. And the people said, but wait a minute.
What people? That was the opposition making noise.
No, man, it was.
I never said, okay.
Civil society and other concerned citizens expressed their opposition to, wait a minute, you haven't even had any consultations, no public education, and you have a bill to go to Parliament in May. They have retreated. That is a win for citizens. In St. Thomas, a set of farmers were on lands previously used for sugarcane. They were now on the lands farming. They were told that they had to leave. The farmers organized themselves, got support from civil society and other groups, and pushed back. And the farmers were given 50-year and 40-year lease to the land. So the point I'm trying to make is this, that they are examples of cities. All right, remember when the Prime Minister appointed the Chief Justice to act?
No, I don't remember. Go ahead.
Yes, the current Chief Justice. Mm-hmm. He was initially appointed to act by the Prime Minister, who said, until you prove yourself, you will be appointed. And people saying, absolutely not. You can't have the Chief Justice acting. And what do you mean by proving yourself?
But was the people?
He had to retreat. So you see the point I'm making, you know, when I could go to other examples, but I think these.
Okay, first of all, I am not into the Black Road and riot and stuff to get things done.
No, I'm going a little bit further.
Right, but I understand the farmers, and I understand, but you see how many times these things about beaches being taken away from people, and it's like nothing that they're doing here, you know?
But I'm trying to go further with
this. Yeah, go ahead, yeah, man, yes.
That we, the people, need to understand that the power of the people is greater than the people in power.
And that's what I want. That is exactly what I want us to understand.
So if we look at another example from further afield, look at what is happening in Israel as it relates to Netanyahu's government's intention. In fact, they have actually passed some law in Parliament trying to rein in the judiciary, to say that Parliament will have the final say over decisions made by the judiciary. And the citizens of Israel have been protesting for the last several months.
Okay, first of all, we're not talking about foreign, we're talking about Jamaica.
You got coming there.
Yes.
If you know what I said, several months.
Yes.
So whereas in Jamaica, when we are protesting, it is like a little flash in the pan. So for example, the recent salary increases for the political directorate. People made a lot of noise, and if you notice, it has died down.
Nothing happened.
Whereas in other countries, they would not let up
And right now the Senate, there's a bill to increase the Senate to triple the Senate's
they currently get $53,000 per sitting, and it is going to 140 something.
Right. And there's no noise, but
the Minister of Finance just rescinded it.
They rescinded it?
Look, yes, he put out that statement that it
okay, good to hear.
But Leo, where I'm going with this is this, that we the citizens must recognize
the power that they have.
Yes, that is where I'm going, that we must have active citizens. So for example, our members of parliament, how do we as citizens demand of them to have town hall meetings? My MP has not convened, or the MP for the constituency, has not convened one meeting to discuss even matters to do with the constitutional affairs. If a matter comes up for a vote in parliament, do they come and say, what position do you want?
That is exactly, nobody asked that question. Matter? Yes.
You will see, for example, in the US where you are, sometimes senators are locked into their offices by their constituents.
Because they have a telephone, a few telephone lines inside their office where they allow the citizens to call in and make their thing, and they listen and write down, well, they record all of that stuff and see where the citizens are going with their thoughts. And then they make a decision from there.
And that is why this opportunity that we have now to revise, to reform, review the Constitution is very critical, so that we put in systems and procedures and provisions to empower the citizens and also to control the kind of unbridled power that we see some of our politicians exhibiting. And, you know, countries are run through effective institutions, you know, and it pleases me to see, for example, how the Integrity Commission is kind of coming into its own.
I see that, but you're going to the constitutional review process, but then there is some argument about doing the constitutional review without also considering the king as the head of state, and I me personally think that if we're going to do a constitutional review, then that has to be a part of the whole reformation, because you can't. Why bother do a constitutional review, change the policy, and still we have to go to the Privy Council? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's the same thing.
It is preposterous.
Okay.
In the extreme.
Okay.
It is preposterous in the extreme to even advocate such a position. It is untenable, and it is incompatible with the notion of a republic. Totally incompatible. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. In fact, I appreciate the fact that we are contributing to the Caribbean Court of Justice and all of that. I would be even more amenable to some consideration of a Jamaican final court.
Final court.
And this notion of being abolishing the monarchy and still retaining the Privy Council. It's just nonsense. Right? Just total nonsense.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of things that I wonder, because if we the people don't put pressure on that review board to reconsider or to stop and reconsider, I mean, then the people don't have any position, because this is a matter of serious urgency.
Yes, and that is why today I was pleased to see an article by one of my colleagues from UTech, Dr. Henry Lewis, in the Observer, where he made mention of the Constitutional Review Committee and their public education program. He has dissected it. He went into the website, he looked at their minutes, he saw what they deliberated on, he saw that public engagement and public education was not given sufficient attention. And so there is that. One of the things that I've said also, Leo, is this. How many of us as citizens take an hour or two out of each day to perform citizen duties? We perform duties as spouses, we perform duties as parents, we perform duties at work, but do we perform citizen duty? So, for example,
I don't think we're taught that anymore, though. Isn't that where?
But what I mean is that there are a number of things that citizens can do. So, for example, we can contribute to green papers, white papers that are coming up. Bustamante came to prominence by writing letters to the Gleaner, you know. That's how we came to prominence initially, and the rest is history, by writing articles to the Gleaner. So do we take an interest in public affairs? And do we take the time to comment? You hear people on talk shows and so on and so forth. But as a general rule, you can know them by their names because they are frequent callers. So
but you know something.
But there is a range of citizens who are doing that kind of engagement. It is argued that some of them are even paid. But what
That's
about
my point.
the volunteer citizen who takes interest in national affairs and engage?
But I think there's also a fear that there will be some repercussion if you do something and somebody is not agreeable to, you know, and I think that kind of moved people away from one political discussion, community discussion. You'll still find persons doing things for their school and for their and for their community, but they're not speaking up about the things that they should. I mean, you write an article and put in the paper, you're gonna have some, you may have some repercussions. Somebody might call you up and trace you off or threaten you or something. I mean, I've seen and heard a lot of that going on in our country. So tell me, I mean.
Well, I've seen it's also in your country too.
I said our country.
Well, where you're currently domiciled. But it is the nature of the beast. It is the nature of the beast. And those persons who are change agents over the course of history are persons who have demonstrated uncommon courage. Let us take Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey essentially gave his life. Marcus Garvey died a broken man in England, but he gave his life and energies to the cause of Black empowerment. Maya Angelou has made the point that courage is the most important of the virtues because all of the other virtues, the exercise of all the other virtues, depend upon persons having courage.
Yes,
so
that is absolutely.
Citizens, we have to be courageous and we have to stand up for a cause. For a cause, if you're not willing to pay the price for a particular stance, then you're not worthy of making that stance. Yes. And it is the price you pay for citizenship. That's why they say, you know, that the price of liberty is perpetual vigilance.
Yes,
democracy have a meaning, you know.
It is.
Government of the people, by the people, for the people. At the core center of a democracy is the people. And the people must recognize that and exert themselves from that standpoint. That's why citizenship education is so important, you know. And it's one of the
do we have that anymore?
We're lacking citizenship education in Jamaica. I'm not talking about civics and that type of thing, you know.
That's what I'm talking about. Citizenship education. To understand your role.
We don't have courses at the university level, for example, where students, as part of the general education component of the curriculum, regardless of their major, they will take courses. So, for example, in citizenship education, what it means to be an active citizen. Those are the kinds of, I believe that for us to move as a country, it is the people who are going to make the difference, not our leaders. The leaders have to be forced into making the change that we require. That's basically what it's going to be left up to we, the people. That's the bottom line, really.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But the people have to know their role. They don't know their role. And so they're operating on their own right now, just because survival is such an important thing in our lives. And they don't think about the national goal, the national view. You know, they don't think about that. They only think about what is in front of them right now. And it's going to be hell to bring them into that arena, that mental state that will get them to start thinking, national. People don't think that.
That takes us to the issue of transformational leadership. That's what transformational leaders do. The story is told about a man who was in a pub having a drink and he heard a commotion outside and he ducked out and looked and said, "There goes the mob. I'm their leader. I must follow them."
Yeah, oh, wow. That's a good one. I'm their leader. I must follow them.
Yeah, you must follow the mob. That's kind of like what we see happening where we do not have transformational leadership, where the leaders are leading from the front.
From the front. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Leading from the front, and you have a vision for Jamaica. We have Vision 2030. But is it coming alive? Is Vision 2030 coming alive so that every speech that is made, reference is made to Vision 2030? I've often heard the budget debates, and the budget is being opened and we hear the throne speech. That's another misnomer, this throne speech. But it all does not hang around Vision 2030.
Yes.
You hear pronouncement about this.
And do you know that the thing about it is, if you talk to the Vision 30 curator, which is the PIOJ, they speak Vision 30, but I really don't hear it coming out in our ministerial reports at all. I really don't. And
right. Yes, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, because every time I talk to the PIOJ, when we present something to them, the first thing they said, we agree on, how is this going to align with Vision 30? I mean, and it's really beautiful to hear all the time. And I talk to them very, very often. And so when I don't hear it at the national level, it kind of hurts, because you wonder, why did we come up with this in the first place?
Right. As if, you have it on paper. The PIOJ has some wonderful dashboards.
Yes.
That are color-coded to what is achieved, what has been exceeded, what is nearly achieved, and so on and so forth. But a lot of them, they have to be pushing back the timelines.
They say we can't get there anymore. Yeah.
So you see, it comes back to my opening comment, failing in important respects as a country. We are failing in some important respects, and we talk about the crime situation. But when we say persons are so much engaged in survival, the precarious existence that people have is such that the economy has not performed sufficiently well to make persons reasonably comfortable, so that they can now have the need to look other than just the satisfaction of the basic needs on the Maslow hierarchy of needs. They can now start to look at matters to do with citizen engagement, national affairs, and so forth. But when you're hustling for the next meal, you can't pay attention to that.
You can't pay attention to it at all.
So we see the link to the economy, that over the last 60 years has average growth of about 1%, thereabouts. The only time we had 6%.
1% would be good if across the board. This seems not going to be a next week conversation, economy, but 1% is growth.
Yes.
And if it shows up in all the necessary areas, that would be fine. But if it's just one area, which is probably it is tourism. Because once upon a time, if 1% was growth in the banana industry and in the tourism industry and the bauxite industry, if 1% overall was that great, we'd be good. But I think 1% might be one-sided.
Well, yes, and the evenness of it. That is the next thing too, the evenness of the growth. Because in 1967, when Shearer was prime minister, we experienced 6% growth in Jamaica.
That's
the
big.
Bauxite industry were just coming on, 3 new bauxite companies opened up, the hotels were just being built and so forth. So there was 6% growth. But here what the problem was, Leo. It was unequally distributed. So the inequality, and that's what made Shearer so unpopular, in addition to him banning of books and banning of Walter Rodney and all of those type of things. It was that scenario and that setting, context, that brought about the landslide of Michael Manley in 1972.
Yeah. Look, we're coming up to what a nice discussion. We're coming up to a 1 hour mark, and I think we should stop here. We did a wonderful job on crime. It was a byproduct of the initial discussion, the initial setting. You setting the tone for this, and I think we did a good job of it. I know that there are a lot more things that we can say about it.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm gonna leave it right here, and then next week we'll come back again and we talk about another topic that's coming out of your failed country. Is it a failed country?
Failing in many respects. Leo, I have a lot to say. I have 3 volumes that I've written about Jamaica because I've spent the time to look at the different areas of our country. The judiciary, the security forces, our education system, all of those areas of the economy, of the country. So I say to myself, I have a duty, born after independence, to see what we have done with our independence project. So I'm happy for the opportunity to talk with you, and I'm looking forward to our. I
say thanks to Karen and Valerie and all the other guys who have joined us this evening. Thank you for joining us, and it's our first time together. And I enjoyed the conversation with you too, Mr. Dr. Ivey. We'll see you again next week, Tuesday evening.
Thank you. I'm looking forward. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.